Hey review family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the new Sleeping with Sirens album entitled How It Feels to Be Lost. This is the 6th studio-length album by the Orlando, Florida rock and post-hardcore and borderline metalcore band Sleeping with Sirens, formed in 2009. This is also their first record to be released on Sumerian Records. In these reviews, I always try to shoot straight from the hip, and I'm not just saying that because I have a cowboy hat. Sleeping with Sirens, never quite been my cup of tea. They occasionally have a really nice single, such as If You Can't Hang, or Kellin Quinn has a good vocal feature like on King for a Day by Pierce the Veil. But even when it's somewhat good, it's not amazing, it's not just incredible. Never personally been that much of a fan of how they take a post-hardcore sound and blend it with pop-punk and alternative rock. Just never really got a feel for how they took post-hardcore and, like I said before, borderline metalcore and just made it this very sappy emo feel. And that's just specifically lying in the hands of Sleeping with Sirens and bands like Pierce the Veil, because honestly there are some really great post-hardcore and metalcore bands that have emo tinges to them. In fact, some of the best emo bands that came out of the 90s and the 2000s had this tinge to them of kind of aggression and post-hardcore and metalcore sounds. I just think the culprit of this a lot is Kellin Quinn's very leggero tenor type of voice. I believe that is the range that he is in based on what I'm hearing. Just extremely high-pitched, and when you get these very just overly dramatic choruses with this emo feel to them, it just sounds so sappy. And on subsequent albums as they continued to go, this really resulted in some high sales. Take their album Feel, which debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Top 200, boasting some of the highest sales for the genre period, and I don't think that's just a coincidence. I don't think it's Sleeping with Sirens doing their instrumentals, doing their vocals, doing their lyricism in such a way that it's just the best for the genre to the point to where everyone flocks to them. No, I just think their success came a lot from the accessibility and the crossover appeal that they had performing post-hardcore with these alternative rock, these pop-punk feels to them. It didn't lie solely in their initial genre, more so the influences that they brought into their genre. And then they just continued down the rabbit hole with an album like Madness, but it was really their 2017 record, Gossip, that just went down the rabbit hole completely when it came to pop rock and pop punk, which coincided with them signing to Warner Bros. And but How It Feels to Be Lost is somewhat of a return to form to some of their initial sounds. They're on Sumerian Records, which has been home to quite a few different metalcore bands and post-hardcore bands. And for the most part, except for those obvious emo influences and alternative rock and pop-punk influences, they are returning to a little bit more of a heavier sound that is post-hardcore based, that is alternative metal based. Definitely more than anything we've heard on pretty much most of their previous releases recently, probably the past 2 or 3 at least. However, a lot of times I feel like I just need to chalk this up to it either not being my style or maybe I'm right, because these singles were still showing that same issue with their previous material. Oh god, this record, the more I'm thinking about it, it's so bad. It really is. The scratchy guitar tone on Leave It All Behind, and that just bridge that drags on so long, and the overactive chorus, and all I can think of when I'm listening to Kellin on this track is Etienne Sin, and that is really not a good comparison that you want to have. At least in the top 5 of the top 10 people you don't want to be compared to in a Jay Morris Review Guy review is Etienne Sin. On the track Never Enough, you get a vocal appearance by Benji Madden of Good Charlotte, another band I'm not that into. For surprisingly a lot of the same reasons I'm not into Sleeping with Sirens. This track's a great example of how they try to incorporate synths into their own line, and it just ends up sounding lazy, and it kind of reeks of some of the really bad electronicore that released in the 2010s, not the good electronicore, which there is some good electronicore, but there was bad, trust me, there was bad. And this reminds me of the bad. How It Feels to Be Lost conveys a little bit of the information of this record, of being in this dark place, being in this depression. It's just the way they convey that on this chorus that just ends up sounding very lazy. Comparing it to so many different metaphors that recalls 2000s emo that are just so overused. In the span of 3 lines, Kellin's going on in his expressive voice about how it's a punch to the face, it's a knife right in the back, it's a bullet right to the head. I appreciate being dark with your metaphors, but when everyone else uses your dark metaphors, you just sound dry. This track also features these gargantuan arena rock drums that are in so much alternative rock and alternative metal right now that I just can never get behind. They try to sound so massive and so smashing. You end up sounding like Imagine Dragons. You end up sounding like Skillet. No one wants to sound like Imagine Dragons or Skillet. God, I have loose things written down and I have things swirling around in my mind. It's just, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Sleeping with Sirens just has this very sappy metalcore and post-hardcore sound, but it's just so off-putting with Kellin's vocal performance. And trust me, I'm fine with really high vocal performances. Jesse Cash is one of my favorite vocalists, period, for clean singing in a metalcore band from the band. He's from the band Era, which is also signed to Sumerian Records. He does a great job. It's just Kellin Quinn reeks of all of the cliches and tropes with his vocal melodies that emo reeked of. Not the good emo, the bad emo. I want to make that clear. I'm not shit-talking metalcore or post-hardcore or emo or anything. Loving all those genres. I love those genres. It's just they perform them all so bad, mix them in a cauldron, and just take the worst of every single thing, and it ends up coming out sounding like this gentrified, over-groomed, over-modulated, over-equalized, trying to sound so massive, trying to sound so big, trying to sound so important, trying to sound so emotional, but in the end having no emotional poignancy, having no potent feels to it, not hitting the mark whatsoever from an instrumental point of view, from a vocal point of view, from a lyrical point of view, and it just ends up sounding so damn lazy. And then you have people that stand Sleeping with Sirens acting like they're just the best thing on the block, when in reality there are bands that do what they do, but just better. Is this the most terrible thing I've heard this year? No, I'm going to give it an average score. It's just I feel like I have to say all these things. God, I don't want to cover Sleeping with Sirens anymore. I was hoping this record might do something for me, might finally click. Trust me, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, I'm looking forward to bashing this record. No, I wanted to give it a shot. I listened to it multiple times for this review, just like I do everything. It just, not only did it not appeal to me like Sleeping with Sirens never has, it sounds lazier than ever. It sounds so over-groomed. It sounds like it's trying to be so much more than it actually is in the end. I'm going to be giving this record a 5 out of 10, and that is a wrap. Please check for the unscreened links of videos that you might be interested in. Have you heard this new Sleeping with Sirens album, How It Feels to Be Lost? God bless your soul if you got through it. Maybe you liked it more than me. Let me know in the comment section below if you would like to discuss the record. I would fully be down to that. Maybe you liked it more than I did. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here to join the review family today. And smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. My name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.